What is up, my guys? Welcome back to the garage. Monday, just finished work. Well, finished work a while ago, finished the gym, all that kind of, I say good stuff, but I'm freaking tired actually. Leg day Monday, leg in time. So VR4 Legnum, twin turbo, manual, all-wheel drive. What can, you can't really ask for much more from a wagon, but we're gonna get into it. Let's start this project.
Perfect.
So right off the bat, she's looking bloody fine. So this is a Mitsubishi Legnum VR4, as I just mentioned before. We got some tasteful little mods. We got a 3-inch, practically straight through exhaust, front mount cooler, some little bits and pieces in here. Otherwise, fairly stock. There's an Evo 9 AYC rear diff, BC coilovers. We got some nice wheels on it, some good sticky tires too, and well, we just want to get more out of the car without going too crazy. I guess my definition of crazy is a little bit more than some, I guess, maybe a little bit. But what we're doing some high flow turbos. We're doing some, I think that's like 272, 265, 268 cams or something rather. I do have a cam sheet. But yeah, they're like 260 to 270 duration cams, so some bigger cams, full refresh of the motor. We're doing clutch. Got to sort out an issue with said AYC rear diff. There's something funky going on there. It has been rebuilt, which I done a little while ago, quite some time ago actually. So we're gonna get that sorted, and yeah, overall, just gotta work out a plan. That's basically this video, working out what the we're gonna do with this thing. To dig you. So basics are, we're gonna pull the motor, which I actually started quite some time ago too. Most of the parts are kind of just chilling, so let's pull that. Open up that corner. The thing with these, oof, that is dark. We're gonna have to pull that bonnet off, just so you guys get a bit better of a view. A bit better view, sorry. So, bonnet. Oh, someone left the light on. That someone was me. Alright, so you can see most of it's already kind of pulled. Radiator, air intake, all of that kind of stuff. We've got our Y pipe and a few bits of charge piping. Whole lot of bits and pieces pulled out to start on pulling the whole motor and the trans. So I guess that's where we start. I guess pulling this stuff off kind of look like this. So first and foremost is going to be the turbo upgrade. We're going with bigger turbos for this guy. So the 6A13 TT V6 twin turbo has some quite small turbos on it, like really small, and they just literally run out of puff. They just don't have the flow capacity to really push air in a higher RPM. Really good for low down torque, really good for getting up and off the line, and it is a bigger car, so that is a good thing. But Joshua wants a lot more power, a lot more spread power as well. So he uses this for Gymkhana, a couple of track days, things like that at Lakeside and QR. And it is really good, it's really quick. I think it actually won the class that it was in last time, and it's a fairly stock build. At the moment, we've got like a catback exhaust system, cold air intake, or in this case, a hot air intake because of, well, you can see the situation going on here. Standard intercooler piping and all of that, so you can see a lot of this is still quite soft, and that is throttle response right there. So when you get on boost and that expands and contracts under vacuum, that's throttle response. That's yeah, not ideal. We do have a front mount cooler on this to keep things a little bit chilly, but it's not really taken advantage of with all that stock cooler piping. So we are going to be doing intercooler piping, upgraded turbos. That is going to bring up the power of the vehicle. It's going to be a lot more responsive, so that's a good start. We are moving our power steering cooler as well, and you can see got a pretty nice front bar and everything, but this big bulge is big thing sitting here is because our power steering cooler, the OEM one, is sitting behind there and it's pushing up against us. So we're going to an aftermarket bar and fin style cooler. It is bigger and it is going to be a lot better. It's a heavy car, so there is quite a lot of strain on the power steering system. We're going to run that up behind here, get a bit more airflow into it, so that'll be good. That'll rectify this front bumper thing here too. We're doing a new clutch, I think the flywheel, engine mounts, maybe some radiator hoses and stuff depending on what it looks like behind there. Going to ARP head studs, likely paint up these rocker covers, get them looking pretty. I'm going to suggest a catch can setup. I think I will go about removing the carbon canister back there, the emissions canister and all of that. Build up maybe a catch can that will fit back there, weld on some fittings here for it, get rid of this PCV setup. And yeah, we're going to move our battery to the boot. So there is a lithium battery. I actually had to send back the battery that I ordered because they had sent the wrong one. So there's a lithium battery coming back to me. We're moving that to the boot. This guy here was not, a few small issues with the car when it came here. It came from a shop just around the corner. This isn't from the shop around the corner doing the dodgy stuff. It just was like this. Yeah, so battery to the boot. We're going to rectify all these small issues. Obviously not that great. We have a Evo, or I think it's an Evo 8 or Evo 9 Super AYC active yaw control rear diff in this car, but the pump itself is having some issues. I've rebuilt the pump, new plates and everything gone through, but it's not bleeding. So I think best solution for that is I'm going to buy the Evo scan tools. And even though I don't have a Mitsubishi, I think maybe if I move more into doing a few Mitsubishis, Evos and stuff like that, it will be handy. So with that software, you can do diagnostics. You can check through the OBD port what the car is doing, what it's not doing. You can also prep and prime the AYC pump. Manually, you can do it. You can like plug in 12 volts to it and get it to prime up like that, but this way the car will do it. You can use a laptop piece of piss, and obviously a few other things that you can do with that software, tuning and stuff like that, which is, bloody fantastic. So yeah, that's where we're at for the moment. Now, this being my first VR4, I haven't really worked on them before. I've worked on a Galant in New Zealand. That was the 6A12 non-turbo V6 still, and that was a pain in the dick, I tell you what. Absolute nightmare to work on. But this was a little bit more complicated. So we're going to be learning. We're going to learn all of our things with this. We need to essentially today drop all the fluid. It's getting a little bit late. Ideally I would like to do it in the garage, but we just don't have the space, and there's no point just kicking it down the road, like taking my time. So I really want to get into this one. We're going to dump all of our fluids, our coolant, oil, trans, everything. All our fluids need to be dumped, and we're going to start pulling this engine out. So with the clutch, flywheel, ARP head studs, that means our cylinder heads need to come off, our turbos, all of that stuff being done. It is just simply going to be easier to pull the whole motor out. I can check everything else. We can do belts, timing belt, anything like that that does need replacement or to be looked at and looked after. A lot easier with this out. We can clean up the bay a bit. Yeah, so that's our first step. I'm going to jack this car up. We're going to dump all of our fluids and then start pulling little bits and pieces out, trying to work out where things go, how things come apart, how we're going to kind of, make them a little bit better. We could probably go to some slimline thermal fans, a little bit more efficient fan, and a lot more room for activities behind here as well. And just really see what we can play with, what we can upgrade on the cheap, and just while we're at it in here. Monday. So, weather's looking a little bit how you going today, but look at that, most of this is done. So, next up we're gonna kind of a plan, a little plan stand. I wanted to get these intakes off, intakes being plural because there's two into one. So I want to get that off so I can get access to our shift cables back there. I want to get those off. I want to get under the car and get these dump pipes off. Man, that turbo is tiny. Tiny, cute little thing. We want to get that off. We want to get our dump pipes off. I also want to... What else we got? Throttle cable can probably come off. We got some bits and pieces under the car. Let's get a torch so you fellas can see, dude. I'm gonna chuck all of the oil trans fluid into a container so I don't knock it over. Man, long day's been long, and that's why I put the oil filter back on, even though it's used. It's because they have a tendency to just continuously drip. Our trans is empty. I let that empty just before. So it is currently 4:35. So that gives us roughly an hour and a half less than an hour and a half worth of daylight. So I'm going to whip into this. I'm thinking, let's see if I can find some penetrating spray because these bolts look nasty. I mean, worst case is I just cut it off down there and deal with it later. But for now, let's not try and cut things up. Oh, and this is why we're doing bushes, because that one there is completely collapsed, as you can see. This is our front torque bush. Peculiar that it's down that way, but yeah, replace those bad boys because those cooked. But anyway, let's get at it. I'm going to start under the car by finding some penetrating spray for all of these downpipe bolts. Given that it's a little bit late, had a long day, pretty heavy leg session too actually, feeling good, but I'm gonna keep it simple for now. Just gonna have a quick overview. I'm gonna check everything out. Start with removing all the small bits and pieces. Some bog race is better than none. So we'll start with like brake booster, back line, throttle. Oh, that's loosey goosey. Throttle cable. We'll start pulling some of these brackets that have the plugs and whatnot on it. Maybe our fuel lines. Probably try and pull this. Nah, we're gonna have to jack the car up and get the serpentine belt off so we can pull our AC compressor off. That is currently gassed, so I prefer to leave it gassed and just pull it off to the side. So we'll do that. Exhaust wise, most of the stuff is off underneath. The crossover pipe and stuff is off, so we can pull the whole motor as is. You can see these tiny little turbskis here. Oh, that doesn't feel good. No, it's not a happy little turbo, but still in there, still done its job. So yeah, other than that, keep it simple and we'll see where we get to. So pulling the axles, this is just a real quick little bit here. That's pretty much the setup you want to pull out the axles. Now, without removing the entirety of all of this setup, it's a little bit how you going. So you want to take off the upper camber arm ball joint there. So let's go up here, 17mm. you want to take off the lower fork bolt there, just so we don't have to remove all of the sway bar things. These can be a bit finicky to get on and off sometimes, so we want to leave as much as possible. Don't want to be messing with the coilover itself. We want to leave the lower arms on as much as possible, especially because we have 2 ball joints down there. Can be a pain in the dick. Caliper does need to come off because there's not enough play in the actual brake line to drop this whole arm setup down like that, so definitely take that off. I'm not sure if you need to take the speed sensor off or the ABS sensor here off an OEM setup. This one's got a zip tie because of the coilovers, so it's got a bit more play, but I did have to take it out of this bracket here. With all of that off, and as it is there, oh, and tie rod. The tie rod needs to come just so we can pull it down. So you can see that here. There's not too much. It might look complicated, but it's not too much. For reference sakes, that is the lower bolt for a caliper. That is the upper bolt for a caliper. So if you get stuck or you mix them up, just refer back to this part of the video, and that's probably what I'll have to do. Now with this upper ball joint here, you want to take off the lower fork bolt first so you can drop it down, because you cannot get your ball joint separator. You might have a different setup, but this particular one, the bolt is on the top, and you obviously can't get a ratchet or a rattle gun in there when you're up here, but you can just use in my case, a 22mm spanner, and you can't get it. You can drop it down a little bit lower. These do obviously move down, and yeah, that's pretty much it. I pulled it out of the box first, so I got the pry bar, that guy there, pried it out of the box, dropped it down between the bolt there and the plastics and all of that. It does fit. Just pull it through there, and then I pulled it out of the hub itself. The sweat in my eyes. The exit bolt, obviously I've taken off earlier. If the car is already in the air, I think I might have a video of me doing it. Pretty sure I do. Just chuck a screwdriver in the ventilation holes. Preferably a rubber-headed screwdriver so you don't scratch any of the paint. Like the handle is rubber, because if it's plastic, you're probably going to chip your paint. And that'll stop the rotor from moving, and you can just kind of pry. Use an old screwdriver, obviously. But that is axle removal on one of these beasts. I'm gonna go get the other side out and then prepare to pull this guy up. Oh, actually no, I need to get the drive shaft and then pull this guy up. Now here's our visual on the upper ball joint. Like I mentioned, can't really get too much in there. You want to be careful, especially if you've got rolled cards, because the paint is sometimes already cracked. And that's pretty much a setup that you want. You just kind of yeet this around a few times. And just like that. That guy is cracked off. So nice and easy. And while I'm in here, yeah, so we got some S13 and S14, some R32 shit going on. That's a very common problem with these big wheels and these smaller arches in the older cars. We've obviously worn through the loom. Now this is probably 90% the issue that I'm chasing in this car, given that the AYC, it's a super AYC from an Evo 9, and it's been causing some issues with bleeding, pump priming, and staying on constantly, which I am gonna say that is our prime issue, and if it's not, it is a issue that we need to get sorted. So we'll get that sorted. Hopefully that sorts all our diff issues out. That'll be beautiful. And yeah, motor time. Let's pull her out. Alrighty, so after a few scotches, what you want to do is drop all of the mounts. So everything on here is, well, as it is with engine removal, everything until you're pulling on it and really testing the tensile strength of like a oil pressure switch or something, like a wire or something here or there. Everything is undone as far as I know. So we have our side engine mount. It's pretty much the same with every engine, actually, I have found. It's a lot easier with rear wheel drive, but transverse like this, same thing. So you want to undo the main bolt through the chassis and the bolts that hold the actual trans bracket, and the same of side engine mount. So that's all flopping around in there nice and loose. Now this particular one, same as the DC5, a lot of newer cars as well have like a brace. You can see that guy down there. Usually runs straight across. DC5 and Hondas, Accords and stuff runs square all around. You want to drop that, remove that. So we can do this. We can actually drop the motor down before we come up. Drop down a bit. And yep. Just enough so you can actually just get these ugly little buggers out of the way. This guy is toast. Very soft, and you can see it's cracked there. Both sides, all around, just soft and nasty. We've got Nolafane replacements, so that is all good. This front mount was completely collapsed. Come around here, and hopefully we can get this guy off too. Now this gives you considerable amount of room to maneuver. Get the engine out of there. You can see radiator hoses hold a lot of coolant, so that's the heater hose. I leave the heater hose and the fuel lines to last, so you're not working in a puddle on the floor, and so you're not working in a whole lot of fuel fumes. Yeah, just really isn't that pleasant. I mean, unless you like that thing, but you should probably see somebody about that. So next up, I guess, yeah, we've got our AC pump and power steering pump just hanging off to the side there. We can start lifting her out. Now we are looking good. Everything is loose and off. It is kind of just chilling there. It's actually chilling on the floor now. We got it on the little trolley, just because trying to get it up and out seems a little bit too fiddly, a bit too difficult. She's coming too close to the aircon condenser at the front. It is an all-wheel drive, so we've got the transfer case down the back, and that snout likes to just rub on the bottom of the power steering rack, and the subframe here makes it a bit more difficult to get out. You can see, very tight package. The gearbox also needs to be leant over and the engine tilted back that way, and where I've got it currently mounted on here, I just can't quite get it right. It's a bit finicky. The fiddly wants to be a dick, so instead I got it on the trolley. We're going to drop it under, or it's already on it, and I'm going to lift the actual body of the car up and over. I haven't quite worked out how to do that yet. It's usually pretty simple. We can usually wrap around the front core support, well, not the core support, but the front bar here, or find a couple of points. Some of the Hondas are light enough that you can actually stretch a chain across the struts and lift it up from there, but I'll work that out, see what we can do. Got to lift it pretty high because while it's on a trolley, it actually sits as high, which means the car also has to be that high, and I don't want to take the manifold and stuff off under here. That's a bit of a pain, but yeah, let's get to working out how we're going to get this guy out. Yeah, nice. So she is out. Well, not out completely yet, but you can see got enough room to pull her all the way out now. That little suspension point there caused a little bit of drama with the turbo. You can see it snagged on here a little bit. Caught on the underside of this for a little while that I couldn't quite see or work out what it was snagged on. So this guy here, which is our it's for our shifter. Oh, someone's put some new bolts in here. It's for our shifter cable. I'm gonna have to get a piece of timber and whack that back down and straighten her out. Not the end of the world, not a biggie, but thankfully this guy's out. Not exactly the safest or most efficient way to get this guy out, so I'm gonna have to work out, maybe watch some videos, see how other people have pulled these motors out. I don't want to do it by pulling the turbos and manifolds off, because that would make it smaller, more compact, a lot easier to do, but to do that in the car, oof, no thank you. But I'm going to drag this guy out of the way, get the car back down and on its wheels. We're going to move this to the side. We're going to put the car outside. We're going to spray it down with degreaser overnight and come back to it tomorrow.